Iona is a small island in the Inner Hebrides off the Ross of Mull on the western coast of Scotland. It was a centre of Gaelic monasticism for 4 centuries and is today renowned for its tranquility and natural beauty. It is a popular tourist destination and a place for retreats. Its modern Gaelic name means Iona of Columba. Etymology: the Hebrides have been occupied by the speakers of several languages since the Iron Age, and as a result many of the names of these islands have more than one possible meaning. Nonetheless few, if any, can have accumulated so many different names over the centuries as the island now known in English as Iona. The earliest forms of the name enabled place name scholar William J. Watson to show that the name originally meant something like "you place." The element evo, denoting "you," occurs in Iron inscriptions and in Gaulish names and may form the basis of early Gaelic names like Eogan. It is possible that the name is related to the mythological figure, Fahar Mac Eogabail, foster son of Manannán, the forename meaning man of the ewe. MacIntyre Ili lists the more recent Gaelic names of Or Culhuimchil and Eilionid, noting that the first named is generally lengthened to avoid confusion to the second, which means Callum's Iona, or Island of Callum's Monastery. The possible confusion results from despite its original etymology, becoming a Gaelic noun meaning simply island. Eilionid means the Isle of Iona, also known as Ornam Ban Ba squared Idhij. The modern English name comes from an 18th century misreading of yet another variant, Iowa, which was either just a Domna N's attempt to make the Gaelic name fit Latin grammar or else a genuine derivative from Ivava. Iowa's change to Iona results from a transcription mistake resulting from the similarity of N and U in insular minuscule. Despite the continuity of forms in Gaelic between the pre-Norse and post-Norse eras, Horswell Smith speculates that the name may have a Norse connection, here meaning Island of the Den of the Brown Bear, Island of the Den of the Fox, or just Island of the Cave. The medieval English language version was Iclamkill. Folk etymology Murray claims that the ancient Gaelic name was Innis nan Duanich and repeats a Gaelic story that as Columbus coracle first drew close to the island one of his companions cried out Kami I meaning I see her, and that Columbus' response was henceforth we shall call her Or. Geography: Iona lies about 2 kilometers from the coast of Mull. It is about 2 kilometers wide and 6 kilometers long with a resident population of 125. The geology of the island consists mainly of Precambrian Lusian gneiss with Torridonian sedimentary rocks on the eastern side and small outcrops of pink granite on the eastern beaches. Like other places swept by ocean breezes, there are few trees. Most of them are near the parish church. Iona's highest point is Dar to the first N 101 meters, an Iron Age hill fort dating from 100 BC AD 200. Iona's geographical features include the bay at the back of the ocean and Car to the first El Ria Permeli Rin, said to be adjacent to the beach where St. Columba first landed. The main settlement, located at St. Ronan's Bay on the eastern side of the island, is called Bael Mar Squarda and is also known locally as the village. The primary school, post office, the island's 2 hotels, the Bishop's House and the ruins of the nunnery are here. The Abbey and MacLeod Centre are a short walk to the north. Port Barren Beach on the west side of the island is home to the Iona Beach Party. There are numerous offshore islets and skerries, Eilian Anrad and Eilian Chalba to the north, Ra'id Eilian and Stack Micmherchade to the west and Eilian Mar to the first. Simil and So Island to the south are amongst the largest. The steamer Cathcart Park carrying a cargo of salt from Runcorn to Wick ran aground on So on April 15, 1912, the crew of 11 escaping in 2 boats. History Dar el Riata In the early historic period Iona lay within the Gaelic kingdom of Dar el Riata. The island was the site of a highly important monastery during the early Middle Ages. According to tradition the monastery was founded in 563 by the monk Columba, also known as Combe Sil, who had been exiled from his native island as a result of his involvement in the Battle of Culdrime. Columba and 12 companions went into exile on Iona and founded a monastery there. The monastery was hugely successful, and played a crucial role in the conversion to Christianity of the Picts of present-day Scotland in the late 6th century and of the Anglo-Saxon Kingdom of Northumbria in 635. Many satellite institutions were founded, and Iona became the centre of one of the most important monastic systems in Great Britain and Ireland. Iona became a renowned centre of learning, and its scriptorium produced highly important documents, probably including the original texts of the Iona Chronicle, thought to be the source for the early Irish annals. The monastery is often associated with the distinctive practices and traditions known as Celtic Christianity. In particular, Iona was a major supporter of the Celtic system for calculating the date of Easter at the time of the Easter controversy, which pitted supporters of the Celtic system against those favouring the Roman system used elsewhere in Western Christianity. The controversy weakened Iona's ties to Northumbria, which adopted the Roman system at the Synod of Whitby in 664, and to Pictland, which followed suit in the early 8th century. Iona itself did not adopt the Roman system until 715, according to the Anglo-Saxon historian Bede. Iona's prominence was further diminished over the next centuries as a result of Viking raids and the rise of other powerful monasteries in the system, such as the Abbey of Kells. The Book of Kells may have been produced or begun on Iona towards the end of the 8th century. Around this time the island's exemplary high crosses were sculpted. These may be the first such crosses to contain the ring around the intersection that became characteristic of the Celtic cross. The series of Viking raids on Iona began in 794 and, after its treasures had been plundered many times, Columba's relics were removed and divided two ways between Scotland and Ireland in 849 as the monastery was abandoned. Kingdom of the Isles as the Norse domination of the west coast of Scotland advanced, Iona became part of the Kingdom of the Isles. The Norse Rex Plurimarum Insularum Amla Bequara N died in 980 or 981 whilst in religious retirement on Iona. Nonetheless the island was sacked twice by his successors, on Christmas night 986 and again in 987. Although Iona was never again important to Ireland, it rose to prominence once more in Scotland following the establishment of the Kingdom of Alba in the later 9th century. The ruling dynasty of Alba traced its origin to Iona, and the island thus became an important spiritual centre of the new kingdom, with many of its early kings buried there. A convent for Benedictine nuns was established in about 1208, with Bethacube C., daughter of Sameld, as first prioress. The present Benedictine Abbey, Iona Abbey, was built in about 1203. The monastery itself flourished until the Reformation when buildings were demolished and all but 3 of the 360 carved crosses destroyed. Kingdom of Scotland following the 1266 Treaty of Perth the Hebrides were restored to Scottish rule. An Augustin nunnery survives as a number of 13th-century ruins, including a church and cloister. The nunnery continued to be active until the Reformation. By the 1760s little more of the nunnery remained standing than at present, though it is the most complete remnant of a medieval nunnery in Scotland. Post-Union after a visit in 1773, the English writer Samuel Johnson described the island as fruitful, but backward and impoverished. The inhabitants are remarkably gross, and remarkably neglected, I know not if they are visited by any minister. The island, which was once the metropolis of learning and piety, now has no school for education, nor temple for worship, only 2 inhabitants that can speak English, and not one that can write or read. He estimated the population of the village at 70 families or perhaps 350 inhabitants. In the 19th century green-streaked marble was commercially mined in the southeast of Iona. The quarry and machinery survive. Iona Abbey, now an ecumenical church, is of particular historical and religious interest to pilgrims and visitors alike. It is the most elaborate and best preserved ecclesiastical building surviving from the Middle Ages in the Western Isles of Scotland. Though modest in scale in comparison to medieval abbeys elsewhere in Western Europe, it is a wealth of fine architectural detail, and monuments of many periods. The 8th Duke of Argyll presented the sacred buildings and sites of the island to the Iona Cathedral Trust in 1899. In front of the abbey stands the 9th-century St. Martin's Cross, one of the best preserved Celtic crosses in the British Isles, and a replica of the 8th century St. John's Cross. The ancient burial ground, called the Ra Ilig Odrain, contains the 12th century chapel of St. Odrien, restored at the same time as the abbey itself. It contains a number of medieval grave monuments. The abbey graveyard contains the graves of many early Scottish kings, as well as kings from Ireland, Norway and France. Iona became the burial site for the kings of Dar el-Riata and their successors. Notable burials there include, Sina Ed Mac Aelpa N, King of the Picts, Domnall Mac Cosanta N, alternatively King of the Picts, or King of Alba, Ma El Caluim Mac Domnall, King of Scotland, Don Cod Mac Ranamin, King of Scotland, Mac Betod Mac Findler Ch, King of Scotland, Domnall Mac Don Carder, King of Scotland, John Smith, Labour Party leader, in 1549 an inventory of 48 Scottish, 8 Norwegian and 4 Irish kings was recorded. None of these graves are now identifiable. St. Bathan and St. Vailed may also be buried on the island. The Abbey graveyard is also the final resting place of John Smith, the former Labour Party leader, who loved Iona. His grave is marked with an epitaph quoting Alexander Pope, "An honest man's the noblest work of God." Other early Christian and medieval monuments have been removed for preservation to the cloister arcade of the Abbey, and the Abbey Museum. The ancient buildings of Iona Abbey are now cared for by Historic Scotland. Present day, the island, other than the land owned by the Iona Cathedral Trust, was purchased from the Duke of Argyll by Hugh Fraser in 1979 and donated to the National Trust for Scotland. In 2001 Iona's population was 125 and by the time of the 2011 census this had grown to 177 usual residents. During the same period Scottish island populations as a whole grew by 4% to 103,702. Iona community . In 1938 George MacLeod founded the Iona Community, an ecumenical Christian community of men and women from different walks of life and different traditions in the Christian Church committed to seeking new ways of living the gospel of Jesus in today's world. This community is a leading force in the present Celtic Christian revival. The Iona community runs 3 residential centres on the Isle of Iona and on Mull, where one can live together in community with people of every background from all over the world. Weeks at the centres often follow a programme related to the concerns of the Iona community. The 8-ton fallen Christ sculpture by Ronald Ray was permanently situated outside the MacLeod Centre in February 2008. Transport Visitors can reach Iona by the 10-minute ferry trip across the Sound of Iona from Finfort on Mull. The most common route is via Oban in Argyll and Bute. Regular ferries connect to Craigna on Mull, from where the scenic road runs 37 miles to Finfort. Tourist coaches and local bus services meet the ferries. There are very few cars on the island, as they are tightly regulated and vehicular access is not allowed for non-residents, who have to leave their car in Finfort. Bike hire is available at the pier, and on Mull. Accommodation In addition to the hotels, there are several bed and breakfasts on Iona and various self-catering properties. The Iona Hostel at Lugando Rain and the Iona Campsite at Cieno Ciaran also offer accommodation. Media and the Arts Samuel Johnson wrote that man is little to be envied whose patriotism would not gain force upon the plains of Marathon, or whose piety would not grow warmer amid the ruins of Iona. Piece of Iona is a song written by Mike Scott that appears on the studio album Universal Hall and on the live recording Karma to Burn by the Waterboys. Iona is the setting for the song Aran on the 1997 Steve MacDonald album Stone of Destiny. Kenneth C. Stephen published an anthology of poetry entitled Iona, Poems in 2000 inspired by his association with the island and the surrounding area. Iona is featured prominently in the first episode of the celebrated art series Civilization, a personal view by Kenneth Clark. Iona is the setting of Jeanne M. Dam's Dorothy Martin mystery Holy Terror of the Hebrides. The Academy Award Euro-nominated Irish animated film The Secret of Kells is about the creation of the Book of Kells. One of the characters, Brother Aidan, is a master illuminator from Iona Abbey who had helped to illustrate the book, but had to escape the island with it during a Viking invasion. After his death in 2011, the cremated remains of songwriter-recording artist Jerry Rafferty were scattered on Iona. Gallery. See also, Bishop's House Iona, Clan and Oyster, Dal El Riata. Notes. References, Dwelly, Edward. Faclergar Idhlig Guy Bealala Delban The Illustrated, Scottish Gaelic English Dictionary. Edinburgh. Blean. ISBN 1-874744-04-1. Fraser, James E. From Caledonia to Pitland, Scotland to 795. The New Edinburgh History of Scotland 1. Edinburgh, Edinburgh University Press. ISBN 978-0-7486-1232-1. Gregory, Donald. The History of the Western Highlands and Isles of Scotland 1493–1625. Edinburgh. Blean 2008 reprint originally published by Thomas D. Morrison. ISBN 1-904607-57-8. Horswell Smith, Hamish. The Scottish Islands. Edinburgh, Canongate. ISBN 978-1-84195-454-7. Hunter, James. Last of the Free, A History of the Highlands and Islands of Scotland. Edinburgh. Mainstream. ISBN 1-84018-376-4, Johnson, Samuel. A Journey to the Western Islands of Scotland. London, Chapman and Dodd, Koch, John T. Celtic Culture, A Historical Encyclopedia. ABC Clio. McIntyre Eli, Ian. Plus in Ames. Edinburgh, Scottish Parliament. Pages 67. Retrieved June 20, 2012. Marston, John. The Illustrated Life of Columba. Edinburgh. Floris Books. ISBN 0-86315-211-2. Murray, W. H. The Hebrides. London. Heinemann. A Cora Inn, Doncald Vikings in Ireland and Scotland in the 9th century Celt. Watson, W. J., The History of the Celtic Place Names of Scotland. Reprinted with an introduction by Simon Taylor, Blean, Edinburgh, 2004. ISBN 1-84158-323-5. Wolfe, Alex, From Pictland to Alba, 789 €1070, The New Edinburgh History of Scotland, Edinburgh, Edinburgh University Press, ISBN 978-0-7486-1234-5, A. Further reading, Campbell, George F. The First and Lost Iona. Glasgow, Candlemas Hill Publishing. ISBN 1-873586-13-2. External links, Isle of Iona, Scotland, the Iona Community, Computer-Generated Virtual Panorama Summit of Iona Index. Map sources for Iona, Photo Gallery of Iona by Enrico Martino, National Trust for Scotland property page. http://www.al-of-iona.net